Hi there, welcome to my video on how to replace the rear gear cable on the Planet X EC130 disc. It's a job that I had to do last week. I'd accidentally over tightened the pinch bolt on the rear mech and the cable had started to fray, so I looked at it and thought, right, I'm going to change it. It turned into a bit of a marathon. There was a lot of experimenting to do, but I think at the end of it I'd worked out pretty much how to do it. I know Planet X do a cable kit. I'm not sure if that's for when you actually build the bike up or whether it's something that you can use for regular maintenance. But I'll just share with you basically what I did. So the first thing that I did was I stripped the handlebar tape on the side of the lever that I was changing the cable on, stripped that right back to the middle of the bars, and then got the levers forward so I could get to the internals of the lever itself. I then went to undo the pinch bolt on the front mech because you're going to need to loosen that cable off, and I'll show you why in a minute. And then obviously undid the pinch bolt on the back of the rear mech so that all the cables were loose. The next thing that I did was I pushed the rear cable through a bit from here so that up at the lever the little nipple came through the side of the brake lever, and then I cut that, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. Then you need to get to the cables underneath the bottom bracket, and this took a little bit of figuring out. There is a little plastic plate underneath the bracket with a little screw in the middle, just, oops, it's hard to do this way around, just here. So if you undo this screw and make sure that the cables are loose, that's why you have to undo the front mech cable as well. I got a little piece of wire into where one of the holes is and pulled it, and this whole plastic plate then basically just drops out so you can get to where the cables are. The mistake I made, I looked at it and this wasn't shifting. It was a little awkward to get out. So I ended up taking the bottom bracket out, the bottom bracket out. Inside there's an alloy sleeve and you can't actually get to the gear cables. So what I did then was I got the rear cable and I pulled it through from the top. I pulled it through from here so that I ended up with, from this side of the bike, I ended up with the rear cable hanging out from here because I pulled it through from the front. And then you could start to pull it through from here, but what you don't want to do is pull the cable right the way through. You need a little bit here because what you're going to do is use it as a guide. Then what I did was I took one of these little cable ends and I cut the sealed end off it to make it into a hollow tube. I then attached one end to the old cable. I fed the new cable through the lever assembly, down through the inside. It comes down the down tube until, because you've got the little plastic plate out, you can then fish it out of the bottom bracket here. I then attach the other end to the other end of that cable on the on one of these, so both ends of the cable were pinched together. You can then pull the cable right the way through up to the back. You can then start to put together everything back underneath the bottom bracket, and you've got the cable running right the way through, and you can, reassemble it all as necessary. I think all in all, once I'd worked out what to do, I reckon I could probably do it inside sort of half an hour or so it's fairly straightforward, hopefully. And that's basically it. It did seem like a bit of a daunting task at first because I've not taken one of these apart, but all in all, it seemed to work. I know with mine running 11 speed, and I've had this with Shimano systems too, that I don't know what it is about cables. With 11 speed, I just seem to need to change them about once every 6 to 12 months. They seem to stretch, and then the gearing goes out of sync. And I usually find that replacing the rear cable is something that really straightens it out. So it's something that is on a fairly regular maintenance list. Anyway, hope that helps. If you've got any questions, then just poke up on the comments. Okay, cheers.